Welcome to the Marylhurst University webinar, where we will feature our Master's in Art Therapy Counseling program. During today's presentation, you'll enjoy hearing from Dr. Mary Andrus, our Program Director for Art Therapy Counseling. You'll also hear from Rishta Lynch, our Graduate Admissions Counselor. And my name is Liz Lehman. I'm a Marylhurst staff representative, and I'll be moderating today's webinar. We'll begin our conversation today with an introduction to our top-ranked degree program. We'll then take a closer look at admission requirements and prerequisites, and we'll be sure to call specific attention to helpful tips used by some of our most successful applicants. We'll then take a look at financial resources available to you, and reserve the second half of today's presentation to hear the questions that you might be joining us with today. Throughout the presentation, you may use the comment box or that feature associated with the webinar. Type your questions in there, and likely at the end of the presentation, we'll address those one by one. We're also recording the webinar, so there's no need to copy down everything you see on the screen today. We would be happy to send you a copy through email within 24 hours of the conclusion. So without further ado, let's take a look at the program that has earned our university, our staff, our faculty, and our students the honor of a top national ranking. And with that, I'd like to bring in Dr. Mary Andrus. You've spent a lot of time thinking about the mission and the outcomes for our students associated with this program, so if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about those with our guests today.
Hello, everybody. Happy to have you here as a part of this webinar. So we are one of the approved programs of the American Art Therapy Association. And as an approved program, we have specific outcomes that we are working to incorporate into all the classes. So overall, we are offering a very rigorous art therapy program to help students become qualified mental health professionals and ethical leaders thinking about social justice, and as they provide clinically focused care to both individuals, groups, and families. A big part of our work is to help educate students in how they understand the use of art making to deepen their own personal self-awareness, and then also to develop their ability to reflect on their role as a practitioner who is integrating both theory and practical application of art therapy in these various different kinds of settings. So that you can see these three overarching goals that we are working toward in all of the classes.
And our program is on, Marylhurst is on a quarter system with 11-week courses. Each of our courses are 4 credits long, and to complete the program, you're looking for a total of 90 credits. The program has been approved by the American Art Therapy Association since 1991, and a lot of our students really appreciate that option to choose between a 2- and 3-year track. Mary, would you like to speak a little bit about what a student should consider when they're weighing those 2 choices?
So the students that are committed to a 2-year degree path, they really are committed to 100% diving in and being really fully engaged in a very rigorous, intensive process. And they have to be driven and have all of their ducks in a row and be able to crank out papers and really integrate the understanding of the reading. You cannot have a full-time job or any kind of job while you're doing a 2-year track. It's just virtually impossible. It's a lot of work. The students that choose a 3-year track sometimes choose to have a part-time job while they're working and in school. And if you have been out of school for some time and aren't in the groove for what it's like to be in graduate school, it may be a good choice to move into a 3-year track to kind of ease yourself back into the rhythm of the demands of being in grad school.
And many of those prospective students in our art therapy program are looking for that small classroom environment. Would you like to speak a little bit about what experience they can expect here as a part of that?
So we really pride ourselves on having a personal connection with the students and really getting to know them and their skills and their strengths and to support them in their growth. Because of that, we pride ourselves on having small class sizes, and where the faculty really know the students' names and really are giving them a small space where they can build a supportive network with their cohort and really feel connected and a part of the bigger community. And in doing that, we have faculty that are really engaged in helping support those students and meeting with them for advising and supporting them as they're working in their different sites doing their clinical work. And the students really appreciate that small attention.
Dual credentialing, that's an outcome or an option available.
Yeah, so upon graduating the program, you have the ability to sit for the NCE exam, which allows you to get the LPC intern. As well, you can get your provisional ATR, which is a nationally accredited or a certification with the Art Therapy Credentials Board. So you have the ability to be eligible for both of those upon graduation. And as it stated here, a number of our students are employed often by their employer that they did their internship at. I believe this year we had 7 that were offered jobs before they graduated from their sites. So it's a great benefit of working in this program. It really prepares you for entering the field.
I should say congratulations are in order to you. You've worked tirelessly alongside other faculty from our art therapy counseling program to bring licensure changes to the state of Oregon. Do you want to talk about the significance of that and other benefits associated with practicing in Oregon?
Yeah, absolutely. This is really exciting because there's very few states in the United States that have this level of protection for the practice of art therapy. And what this bill that we passed states is you can't actually practice and call what you're doing art therapy or use the title art therapist unless you have this credential. So it really protects the profession and the practice of this field in the state of Oregon, which is really important because there's often clinicians who are out there claiming that they do art therapy but have no training or background in art therapy, and this is really honing into the ethical practice of art therapy to be conducted by people who have training in the specific discipline. So like I said earlier, upon graduation, you can get your ATR and your LPC, which allows you further protections in getting reimbursement from your employers or in private practice. So really thinking about Oregon is a great place to be an art therapist because we have this law, and there are very few states, like I said, that have this level of a law in place. And this will go into effect this 2018. So it's something that we're really excited about.
Yeah, certainly something worth celebrating here. So let's turn our attention and talk about the application process, the admission requirements. Marylhurst requires all applicants submit an online application. We also request official transcripts from all of the universities you have attended. But I think this is a great time to reintroduce Mariska Lynch, our graduate admissions counselor. And Mariska, I'll ask you to speak to each of these different requirements to help familiarize our guests with each of them. And also, if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about some of the work or the strategies that you see our most successful applicants take throughout this process.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the things, hello everyone first, but one of the things that I've seen benefit students is to actually start their online application early. So you can start it now. It's a portal application, which means that you create login and you can log in, complete parts of it, log back out, take some time to complete other pieces, log back in, upload them, things like that. So you don't have to have everything put together to start the process. And as you start the process, I will be there to support you. So you can always ask me questions. So once I know that you're applying, that connection is made and can be very helpful. Official transcripts can be ordered from a lot of universities now electronically, and I actually recommend that you go that route just because it actually is faster, often cheaper, and you can even see if and when somebody on our end downloaded it in case it goes MIA. The resume is a good place to show the breadth of your experience. You can also share more about your art, or if you've had shows, or if you have a website, this is a good spot to point that out, because you will be speaking specifically to your human services experience in the application. So making sure that you have at least a good chunk of the 300 hours that we require under your belt, but you can still be working on it when you start your application, as long as you kind of have a plan of how you're going to get that experience. We look for that experience because it's crucial in informing you as a student and also making sure that this is the career path you want to choose. So you can get your human services experiences in many ways, working for a variety of places, either as a volunteer or as a paid employee, and treatment centers, retirement homes, alternative schools. It's good to have a supervisor that might have a mental health degree of some sort. It's either art therapy or marriage, family, counseling, social work, and they'll make a great recommender. One of the tips that I have for a recommendation letter is to consider a supervisor from your human services experience, because they'll be able to speak to your ability to work in the, your future career choice. And also a faculty member is a good choice, someone that can speak to your passion. So I would say an art or a psych professor would probably be your first choice. In the statement of intent, we actually have very specific questions, so just pay attention, read the questions, make sure you answer them in a way that represents yourself and also your understanding of art therapy. Make sure that you put your name on the statement of intent, and that you do it double space and in 12-point font, just the standards to make it easier for our faculty to actually read what you've submitted. The art portfolio is a big piece of the application. Your art skills are very important when you're entering any art therapy program. You should have strong skills in painting, drawing, and sculpture. I would recommend that you have a figure drawing and one of the sculptures be clay or similar. It can be ceramic, but just so we can see that you know how to use those mediums and that you understand them and are strong in them, as you will be using those skills as you enter the program. We also like to see that you demonstrate some self-reflection in your work, and if you address global social justice issues in your art pieces, that's a bonus. For those of you who might have a low GPA, just a note that we do still accept applications of students that have a low GPA, because we know that there's always a story behind it and we look at the whole application. But just know that if your GPA is low, we will require that you take either the Miller Analogies test or the GRE. And we're looking for over 50th percentile on both of those. And once you've submitted all of that, I recommend that it's before January 31st. That's the priority deadline, so your application will be considered for the first spots and will be considered for the group interviews that will be hosted here on campus on February 23rd. Once those are completed, we do usually have a decision within a week or two, so you'll know quite quickly. But the interview process is also an opportunity for you to meet us and see the campus. So I would encourage you, even if you don't live in state, to kind of put that February 23rd on your radar and try to make it here, because we know that you're making an important decision as well. So we actually don't just do a half-hour interview that you've flown in from across the state. across the states for, but we provide you an opportunity to meet students and faculty, even see an art show and have lunch and ask informal questions and just kind of get a feel for the place. So I would encourage you, get your application in by January 31st and put that February 23rd on your calendar.
Is there anything you would recommend to applicants to prepare for that interview?
Put together a good application. The best way to prepare for the interview. You know, go over it before you come, so you know what you've put in.
Familiarize yourself with what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Great, thanks, Marisha. And there are also prerequisites associated with the program, and many applicants ask whether or not these need to be actually completed in advance of applying. Can you answer that for them today?
They don't have to be completed in advance of applying. You can have them in progress or even a plan to complete them after the application. I would recommend that you don't have every single one of them in progress, just because it will be more difficult for faculty to know if you will be a good fit for the program and if you'll have enough skill for the program. So try to build them into your degree, or if you've already finished your undergraduate degree and don't necessarily have the prerequisites, like community colleges can be a great source to start getting them completed. But you'll definitely want a plan of completion before fall term, because you have to have them done before you enter the program. So in the application, you'll be writing out where you've either completed them or where you plan to complete them. So just know that that's a piece of information you need to kind of think through.
And if students have questions about a particular aspect of these prerequisites and whether or not their experience qualifies, they should just contact you directly.
Yeah, please email. What might be best is if you email me your transcripts. It can be unofficial ones, and I can have a look and we can start that conversation.
So as people get started and begin to enter the application process, what path should they expect to take? Once they submit that online application, what does the remainder of that admissions process look like for them?
So like I said, the application it's a portal application, so you can start working on it and take your time. You'll be uploading almost everything except your transcript, so you can upload your portfolio, you can upload your resume or statement of intent. And then once you know, and you'll be requesting recommendation letters through it, so have contact information of your recommenders and let them know that they'll be getting an email from Marylhurst. They'll be able to fill it out and submit it right into your application, so they don't even have to buy a stamp. And then just make sure that you have it completed by January 31st. That means that you've submitted the online portion and that you've uploaded all of the requirements. And then our faculty will review your application, and we will let you know if we're inviting you for the interview. Usually within, it usually takes at least 2 weeks for them to review the application, so make sure that, I know that's the hardest part, is being patient to know what the response is, but we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Yeah, and I do recommend that you connect with me, because then you can actually kind of follow your application and ask me questions, and I'll be able to also let you know if there's something that's gone awry, or if maybe your essay is missing, you know, everything. You've uploaded an empty page or something like that. So it's good to connect with me. I'll be your resource, so don't hesitate to take advantage of that. It's not a lot of graduate programs can provide the level of service that we do, so do rely on me as your admissions, your admissions counselor is your friend. So don't hesitate to reach out.
Yeah, students I've talked to really appreciate the fact that they're not going through the application process alone, because they can borrow your wisdom and expertise throughout the process and along the way. So when considering the cost of a graduate degree, you'll want to understand the financial resources available to you. Marylhurst operates, as I said, on a quarter system, and the fees you see here are actually based on last year's tuition. So the total approximate cost of the program is about $56,000. We also are committed to making higher education accessible. So we're really really steadfast in ensuring that there are no additional fees, hidden fees. Most universities you would find fees for parking on campus, and that's something that we really enjoy here at Marylhurst, is that there's not that parking fee requirement.
In your program, you literally will have two fees when we were to start the program. So we don't have an application fee, but we have a matriculation fee in place of that will also actually cover all your graduation fees. And then there is a fee for your advancement to candidacy, which is making sure that you're ready to go into your internship. So those are the only two fees that the art therapy program has in addition to the tuition. And tuition typically goes up by very little. It actually hasn't gone up in the past 2 years, and if it will be between 1% and 3%.
And Marylhurst is really committed to the financial literacy of our students as well, helping you feel prepared along the way. For that very reason, we have a robust financial aid department that's here to support you, ensuring you're aware of all scholarship, federal loans available to you. Many students find it more manageable to pay for their education in monthly installments. That's an option rather than paying in a lump sum. So we really encourage you to connect with our financial aid department through your admissions counselor here to learn about all of your options at Marylhurst.
And we have scholarships available. They are needs-based, and you're considered for them. Once you're admitted, you'll fill out a Marylhurst financial aid application that will connect both with your FAFSA and also for consideration for our scholarships. And we have some great resources on our financial aid page for outside scholarships. And I always, to art therapy students, recommend that you look at the Art Therapy Association. They always have grants and scholarships for art therapy students. So make sure that you look for things like that are specific for you.
And your or your experience as an art therapy counseling student really extends beyond the classroom. Mary, do you want to talk about some of the different event opportunities that our students enjoy?
Yeah, so we established last year Open Studio first Tuesdays. So the first Tuesday of every month, we host a free open studio where people can come and use the art making process facilitated by an art therapy faculty to deepen an understanding of themselves. And this is often attended by our current students, our graduates from the program, alumni, faculty, art students, potential students. This is a great opportunity if you're in the area on a Tuesday to come and take part in this. And actually this one that we have scheduled for November 7th is in conjunction with a in-person information session that we're having about the program. So if you want to hear from some students about their experience of being in the program, it'd be a great opportunity for you to come to that and then stick around for the open studio. Separately, we are starting I've created this annual conference. This is our first one happening in April called Cultivating Community. This is another opportunity to really learn about the community here and connect with not only art therapy, but music therapy, dance therapy, drama therapy, and really see how the creative arts professionals are sharing best practices in this part of the country. So that is another thing to keep an eye out for. It's happening April 20th through 22nd here at campus.
Exciting things happening around here. I do want to now take this time to address the questions that many of our guests are joining us with today. Many of them have been coming in throughout the presentation. If you have additional questions, please go ahead and use the comment questions box associated with the webinar now. We'll do our best to address each of them. If you have a question that is a little bit more personal and relative to your unique situation, we may address that individually. Mariska will follow up with you directly afterwards. And if you think of questions, of course, at the conclusion of this webinar, we would be happy to connect with you personally as well. So one student is asking for human services experience. Would experience as a speech language pathologist count towards that?
Yes.
That was easy.
At least the answer they wanted to hear.
It really is the human services experience where you've worked with people in specific in situations where people are often vulnerable, related to mental health or special needs. So it's not something like customer service, even though it might feel like that sometimes, but it really is in an environment that is specifically more related to the profession that you are wanting to enter.
So for instance, volunteering at a nursing home or an after-school program with kids, getting a feeling for what it's like to work with people is what we're looking for, and some experience having done that. It does not have to be art-based, and like being the person that's sitting at the desk and checking in people as they go through a gallery or at a clinic. That's not really what we're looking for. We're looking for the actual like hands-on engagement with people in activities or in their settings that really can help us see that you really get what it means to work with people.
And are we making a recommendation that prerequisites are taken at Marylhurst, or can they be taken elsewhere?
They can be taken wherever. We don't have any specific.
As long as it's a regionally accredited college or university, it would be acceptable. Typically, students find if they haven't taken the prerequisites within their degree, taking them at a community college can be more cost-effective, and you can often have more choice with that.
We have another student that's asking whether proficiency in other mediums, such as digital media and performance art, how that would be considered in the application process.
It would be okay to include them, but we really need to show, you really need to show proficiency in those specific areas of drawing, painting, and sculpture. If you have additional pieces that really represent you and your work, put them in there, but we really need to see that you have the technical ability to work with drawing, painting, and sculpture.
And I think actually that answer and question relates to another question that I see up there where somebody is asking, they have skill in painting and drawing but not sculpture, and if that will impact their application. It will impact the application. My recommendation would be that you take a sculpture or a ceramics class at least, so that you have sculpture and ceramics for the portfolio, and so that you also work on that skill, because it is to simplify, clay is a medium that's often used in the art therapy setting, so you will want to know how it behaves and and hone your skill in it.
I'm looking through the rest of our questions here to see what else we can answer.
What's the average rate of acceptance? That question is always hard to answer because we're a tiny school. We have 800 students all in all. We admit about 20 students every year, but we're not sticklers to the number 20. We've admitted less and we've admitted more depending on the incoming cohort. We do typically get at least 2 to 3 times as many applications as we end up with students in the spot. So we don't track the percentage just because it can fluctuate considerably depending on the cohort. We also work very closely with our students. So typically by the time students are ready to apply, they've talked to me. They have a pretty good sense of themselves and the strength of their application.
We have another prospective student asking if faculty recommendations are required, but there are other sources of recommendations that we accept.
Yeah, faculty recommendations are not required, especially if you haven't been in school for a while. I would recommend that you the supervisor recommendation that we gave, that might be your best route. Somebody that has seen you work with people and can speak to that will probably be your best choice.
Right. If there are any more questions, I would encourage you to reach out to our admissions office. Mariska would be happy to connect with you to address those. There are a few other questions that we see here that we're going to follow up with individually. So if you didn't receive an answer during our webinar today, you can expect to hear from us. I think all of us, on behalf of all of us, I can really say that we appreciate the time that you took to spend your lunch hour with us or your afternoon with us, wherever you're located across the country. I hope that you found today's presentation informative, and we really look forward to learning about your goals and pursuits in art therapy. So with that, I will go ahead and close the presentation, and you will receive a copy in your email within the next 24 hours. So thank you very much, and thank you to Mariska and Mary for joining us.